Hey everyone, what's up? It's Morgan and Angie from The Shift, from people pleasing to living and loving fully. Today we are super excited because we are going to be talking a little bit about people pleasing and what that looks like in your romantic relationships. We have a live class. We're going to be doing a live master class next week on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, and it's going to be super cool. It's actually going to be really interactive. So instead of like a webinar format, it's going to be us kind of live talking to you about what you're struggling with and how people pleasing shows up in your romantic relationships and giving you guys some tips on what has helped us through our issues. So we're super excited about that. Angie, did you want to say what all we're going to be covering in the class next week?
Where we're going to be talking about how in your romantic relationships that you say yes when you really want to say no. We're going to talk about how we keep quiet about our own feelings and our vulnerable thoughts because we don't want to hurt our partner's feelings. So we keep things inside. We're going to talk about struggling to really be yourself fully because of the fear of your partner's reactions. Taking too much responsibility for your household and your children and feeling overwhelmed as a result of that. And also feeling unable to ask for help from your spouse. So those are the topics we'll be covering. And we'll be going into more depth with those and also having a lot of interactive conversations with you.
Awesome. So today we thought we would just put this out there as, just a little tidbit to kind of get us rolling on what we're going to be talking about next week. And so we thought, why not talk about today with our partners, how we say yes oftentimes when we really want to say no. And this is a core people pleasing symptom, right? Where we've got this voice in our head, someone's asking us to do something and we really hear ourselves saying, I really don't want to do that, but we say yes anyway. We want to talk. Why do we do that? Why is it that we have to say yes when we don't actually want to do that thing, right?
Exactly. And Morgan, you have a great story around that. Do you want to share about the bench story?
Yes. Okay. So I was just telling Angie about this to demonstrate. So I feel like some personal growth I've gone through with the whole people pleasing thing, right? Because we're not perfect, but I'm excited to see, we're so passionate about this because we've seen how disengaging from people pleasing does allow us to live our more authentic, happy lives and to trust our spouses more even. So anyway, I think this happened like a year and a half ago. And it was that I was having a rough day and I was feeling real frustrated and overwhelmed. And I was like, okay, I need some space, right? I need some space. I need to like go for a walk, right? So I tell Jared, I think I need to go for a walk. Like I need to clear my head and whatever. So then he says to me, do you want me to go with you? And in my head, like I hear that voice screaming, no, right? Like, no, I don't want you to go with me. But what did I say? I said yes. Why did I say yes? I don't know, because I guess I just felt like I didn't want to hurt his feelings. I was like, I don't want him to think I don't want him to go on a walk with me, so I better say yes. So we're going for this walk, and I'm thinking like, why did I invite him? He keeps talking, and I just want to clear my head. And so it's just so funny. And then I was comparing that to something that happened last week. So I visited Temple Square last week, and for those of you who don't know, so I grew up Mormon. I'm not Mormon anymore. So visiting Temple Square in Salt Lake, it's a Mormon, like history monument kind of thing, and there's a, just a lot of Mormon history and stuff there, and so it was very emotional for me being there. So to show you my growth from then to now was that I told Jared, because I was feeling very emotional and I felt like I needed some space to myself, and it was just him and I there. So I pointed to a bench and I said, I'm going to go sit on that bench alone. And he just said, okay. So I did.
He didn't really care, right? We think that our spouses care so much, but they don't a lot of times.
Right? Yeah, he was just playing Toon Blast on his phone. So yeah, he did not care. But yeah, it's just funny because like, why was there so much shame around just me wanting to have like space to myself? Like, because somehow it will hurt his feelings, and it's just so silly when you look at it that way. So.
And then he came over and sat on the bench with you.
Oh yeah, eventually he came over and sat on the bench, and I said to him, I'm not even kidding, I said, this is the quiet bench. this is the quiet bench. And I said, I'm having a moment right now. And he's just like, okay. And he wasn't bothered, like he wasn't annoyed, like, and if he did get annoyed, I mean, there would be no, good reason for it anyway. But right. Yeah, I just thought it was a funny story that perfectly, I think, exemplifies kind of my, a little bit of my growth out of like trying to feel like I gotta make everyone else feel happy and I can't take care of myself because of that.
I say it represents a lot of growth, and it's a beautiful illustration of how you were people pleasing and then you started to really live and love fully. And by doing that, by being authentic and telling them what you really, this is the quiet bench. I think that's a great title for a book. This is the quiet bench, it's beautiful because then you're being authentic and you're creating connection as a result of that. You cannot have connection if you're feeling resentful. And so I think it's just a very simple and beautiful story about what we're trying to teach. And not only do we want to help you to have this deeper connection with the people you love, but we're doing it for ourselves. This is about me and Morgan stepping into our own power and joining you on that journey. So it's definitely not just about you. It's about us. It's about our connection with each other. And I'll just share a little bit. I know we don't have a lot of time, but when I'm going to refer back to my first marriage because I'm in my second marriage and I'm happily married. But in my first marriage, I met him when I was 15 years old. And so I was just developing as a young woman. I didn't know who I was. And I had a lot of people pleasing bad habits at the time. And I was very unaware. I know that we dated for like 7 years and then we got married. And we had a daughter. We got married, and then 4 years later, we had a daughter. But I was constantly being challenged with being true to myself in my relationship. And I, this is not about blaming anybody for anything. So our stance is really more about what's going on internally. What do I need that I'm not asking for? And I just remember that I thought, well, once we had a child together, maybe that will bring us closer. And it did in some ways, but in fact, it created a layer of complexity that made things a lot more difficult. And it just brought to the forefront, we have some real problems. Yeah. And because then, it was one of those things, for example, we're talking about saying yes when you really want to say no. Well, I would do that with him regularly. I would, for example, like if he wanted me to go take care of my daughter while she was crying in the crib, he would often put stuff onto me. He would put a lot of the responsibility onto me for taking care of her. And it felt like I had 2 kids versus 1. It did. And again, we're friends to this day. So we're good now, but we weren't for a long, long time. And it's just because why didn't I tell him no? Why didn't I say, well, no, you can go do that, or you can wash the dishes, or, you can do this, that, whatever the case may be. Why didn't I do that? And I believe that it's because I didn't want to make waves. I didn't want to create conflict to where we would be arguing and then I'd be making him unhappy. I wanted him to be happy. Yeah. And I felt responsible for making him happy. Yeah. See, that's the part where we don't have clear thinking around certain things. It's like we think, well, if I make him happy, that I will be happy. And so there's some truth to that. And as far as like, it's fun to give to others, right? It is fun to give. It's fun to help. But any good thing could be taken to an extreme to where it's really not so good for us. And so keep that in mind. Like, even making people happy can be taken to an extreme. How do we know we're taking it to the extreme? We know when we start to feel resentful, when we start to feel frustrated that our needs aren't being met. Somewhere deep inside of us, we realize that we're over giving. Yeah. We are not giving enough to ourselves. And it's like that analogy of, you know, our cup is so full sometimes, but yet when we start giving, and then we feel like, man, people take advantage of me. Like, I have to do everything. It's all up to me. It's all on my shoulders, you know? Then that cup starts to get really empty. Yeah. And we have to replenish the cup. Like, we have to replenish the cup. So that's what I'll share today. And I know we want to keep this as brief as possible, but just want to say that these are the kind of conversations that Morgan and I will have next Wednesday. And we want to be real with you. We're going to share some stuff, whatever's on our heart that day. Honestly, we don't know what's going to be on our heart that day. So, but we will be authentic with you with whatever we share, and have these conversations so that you can just start to think, is this the life that I want? Am I living and loving fully? Or am I people pleasing because I don't want to hurt other people's feelings and I don't want to be left alone? We fear that we're going to be left alone. So yeah. Morgan, anything else you want to share?
Yeah, I thought that was so well put. And it's like, we do get caught up, excuse me. We get caught up in thinking like, I have to do all of this. I have to put all this out there and make this person happy, or else what? Or else, you know, it will ruin the marriage, or they're going to leave me, or they're not going to accept me. Right. But if we really analyze that for what it really means, like, would you really want to be with someone who didn't want to accept the real you? Now, and I'm not saying like, you know what I mean? I'm not saying like, oh, let's all just like throw everything at our spouse and see what happens. Like, but the point I'm trying to make here is that we want to facilitate an attitude where we can trust that our spouse can handle certain things. Like, so for example, like Jared, I think, you know, when I talked about a year and a half ago, when I said, yes, go on the walk with me, I think he would have handled just fine if I had said no. Now, at the time, I didn't think so. I thought, oh, he's going to be upset, and then it's going to be my fault, and then I'm going to feel guilty, and it's just this pattern, right? And why couldn't I just trust him that he would be fine if I said no? And here's the thing, like, even if he were to get upset about that, why couldn't I just trust that he would get over it? Because he's an adult. Yeah, and, like, right. He could handle a little bit of, like, me telling him something that might, like, be like, what? She doesn't want me to go on a walk with her? Like, why couldn't I just trust that he could handle that? So it's like I was trying to protect his feelings that may or may have not even occurred. So it was me just being completely over responsible, feeling like I had to make him happy before I could share what my needs were. Anyway, so I think.
And Morgan, I want to just, yeah, go ahead. I want to interject something though about that.
Yeah.
You know how you said you thought he can handle it? This just ties into our talk about being a compassionate parent. A compassionate parent says, you got this. So I just wanted to tie that in, because on our last video, we talked about that. And we'll probably bring that up over time, because being a compassionate person doesn't mean you feel sorry for someone. It means you've got this. I trust your ability to handle this. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yes. I love that. And I feel like I'll just add, because I feel like there was a lot of codependency, I mean, in my marriage, but also with me and my mom growing up. And I feel like that attitude was what shifted me to break that codependency and that people pleasing with my mom in a lot of ways. because it was like
Mhm.
realizing, wait a second, I can figure this out. I can handle this. And also like with setting healthy boundaries, like she can handle this too. And like that trust anyway. And I just think that impacted my marriage a lot too with the people pleasing and codependency. So anyway, yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to add before I do the outro?
I don't think so. I'm just looking forward to seeing you on our masterclass next Wednesday, in which we're going to be talking about how people pleasing shows up in your romantic relationships and what to do about that. Like, it won't be overwhelming. It'll be simple. It'll be straightforward and very, very valuable. So I'm looking forward to seeing you there.
Thank you guys so much for joining us on the shift today from people pleasing to living and loving fully. We really appreciate you guys watching this video. Please subscribe for future videos where we just have real talk with you guys about our lives, what has helped us to shift from people pleasing in our life over to living and loving more fully. Don't forget, in the description below will be a link to our class, our master class, next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Central Time, where we are going to be having real talk with you guys with your real issues and helping you guys try to transition your lives as well. So thank you guys so much. Bye.
Bye.